Good morning, everyone. We're going to get going on the meeting. So, Bruce, you want to begin with some announcements?
Yes, let me get a little closer here. So there's bathrooms that are kind of out in the lobby area, but there's also bathrooms right behind here if anyone needs to use the facilities. We need you to sign in. If maybe one of the staff could grab the sign-in sheet. Anyone who hasn't signed in, will bring it to you so you can get your name on the list. Much appreciated. We'll be on a webinar this morning, and this is our official record. So right now, the line is muted. In order to unmute your line, hit *2. And then if you're not talking, please mute your line and hit *2, which will mute it again. We'll accept public comment or questions by typing into the webinar, as well as unmuting your phone and talking. If on the conference call only, please send your name, title, company, and contact information to Paula Loving at ploving@mt.gov. If you're giving public comment, we need to use a microphone, but you need to state your name and spell it if it's a tough spelling, and the organization you're representing. And then the microphones will need to be used for everything. This includes the board and its discussions, motions, seconds to motions, and votes. So that's it, I think, for now.
Thank you. I think we'll do introductions now. I'm Pat Melby from Helena, chair of the board. Bruce?
Bruce Brenstall, I'm the executive director for the board.
Eric Schindler, board member from Helena.
Bob Gochi, board member from the Flathead area, Ronan.
Greg Gould, board counsel from Helena.
Amber Parrish, board member Billings.
Jeanette McKee, board member Hamilton.
Johnny McCluskey, board member Billings.
Thank you. Now, you can pass the microphone around. We can have the audience introduce themselves, starting with Mary.
Mary Bear, multifamily manager, Montana Housing.
Kelly Guerrilla, Montana Housing.
Ginger Fancook, accounting finance manager, Montana Housing.
Rusty Snow, Summit Housing Group.
Jim Morton, serving with the Human Resource Council, serving Missoula Valley and Minnow counties.
Bob Robinson with the Human Resource Council out of Missoula.
Sherry Airy, NeighborWorks Great Falls.
Katie Batterby, NeighborWorks Great Falls.
Tyson O'Connell, Wishcamper Development Partners.
Bob Jamieson from American Covenant Senior Housing in Kalispell.
Ryan Hackett with Desert Ridge Investments.
Diane Hunt, Syringa Housing Corp.
Taylor Hunt, Syringa Housing.
Shane Walk, Mountain Plains Equity Group.
Hello, I'm Don Sturhan with Mountain Plains Equity Group. We're a tax credit syndicator based in Billings.
Andrew Shinani with AC Solutions.
Tracy Minuet with HRDC 9.
Vicki Bauer, Homeownership Program Manager, Montana Housing.
Cheryl Cohen, Operations Manager, Montana Housing.
Penny Cope, operations, Montana Housing.
Paula Loving, Montana Housing.
Todd Jackson, Commerce Communications.
Thank you, everyone. Penny or Paula, if you could tell us who's registered on. Oh, I'm sorry, there's some more there. Go ahead.
Blake Jumper, the Housing Company.
Jason Bowl, Blue Line Development.
Jennifer Wheeler.
Alex Burkhalter, Housing Solutions. Tyler Kearns, Housing Solutions.
Susan Kohler, Missoula Aging Services.
And Pat, this is Penny Cope again. I'm going to read the names off that are listed here that are on our webinar. Charlie Brown is on our call. He's from Montana Housing. Dorothy Cabiro with My AM Cap, My American Cap. Jennifer Wheeler with Glacier Bank. John Wagner with QTech Rock. Kaya Peterson, NeighborWorks Montana. Larry Phillips, also NeighborWorks Montana. Lindsay Douglas, Flathead, Robbie Novak, and Stacy Umbe, safe in the Bitterroot. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Penny. I apologize to you in the back row. I didn't mean to cut you off. If there anybody on the webinar who hasn't been introduced, wasn't mentioned by Penny, would you please introduce yourself now?
This is Gene Slater. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
This is Gene Slater, CSG. I'm on the call. I couldn't figure out how to register on the webinar.
And this is Lori Davidson from Missoula Housing Authority. I'm on the call. I'll be in the webinar in about half an hour.
Anyone else? This is the time in our meeting where we allow public comment on any item that isn't on the agenda, but was it within our jurisdiction. So if anybody has any public comments, now is a good time to do it.
This is Dorothy Cabarro, AMCAP Mortgage Ltd. I just wanted to correct our company name with my introduction.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any public comment on any item that's within our jurisdiction but not on the agenda?
Hi, everyone.
All right.
This is Kaya. Oh, sorry. Hello?
Go ahead, Kaya.
Thank you. This is Kaya Peterson with NeighborWorks Montana. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person today, but I do have two announcements I wanted to share with the board. One is that our Executive Director, Maureen Rood, is retiring at the end of the year. So if you hadn't heard that news, we wanted to make sure to share that with you publicly, and I will look forward to having an opportunity to come to a meeting in person in the future to talk with you more about our transition plans, but I will be taking the helm as of January 1st. And Montana Housing is such an amazing partner of ours, and we'd love to just touch base with you about all of our work at a future meeting. The second thing I wanted to share with you, well, and I should say, if you see Maureen between now and the end of the year, please congratulate and thank her. She's not one for accolades and fanfare, but we want to make sure to recognize all the amazing work she's done over the last 30 plus years in Montana Housing. The other thing I wanted to share with you is that the Neighborhood Lift down payment program is launching today. The partnership between Wells Fargo and NeighborWorks America, and brings $10,000 of grant assistance to 250 families across the state. So if you haven't heard of the program or are interested in learning more, you can go to montanalift.org. NeighborWorks Montana and NeighborWorks Great Falls are proud to be partners in that program, and we'll be working with Wells and NeighborWorks America to administer that. There's a whole list of approved lenders, and clients can start applying today to receive that grant assistance. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Kaya. Is there any other public comment on any item that's not on the agenda and within the board's jurisdiction? Hearing none, we'll move on to the minutes of the September 10th and the September 24th meetings. Any board member have any corrections or additions to those minutes?
I make a motion to approve the September 10th minutes. Bob Gochi.
Bob Gochi has moved to approve the September 10th minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Hearing no additions or changes, all those in favor of approving the September 10th meeting minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. What's your pleasure with the September 24th meeting minutes?
I'll move approval of the September 24th minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the September 24th, 2019 minutes. Hearing no suggested changes or corrections, all those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We're moving to the finance program.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, members of the public. Your packet should include the items that are on the agenda. There's a separate sheet with the board agenda item from your packet, should be down below. The big thing on our finance dashboard that becomes apparent from looking at all of the different sections is that our money market funds are growing and some of our other investments are diminishing. This is just, we have not been able to get any new investments for quite some time that would beat our money market rate. At this point, the money market rate is quite a bit higher even than treasuries, long or short term. We're keeping an eye on that and we'll reinvest as soon as the market comes back up. You can see from that first section that 65% of our investments are in money market. The yield trend, even with this, is still holding fairly steady. It dropped a little bit at the end of August, but it is not a huge drop. It seems to be holding fairly steady, and we just keep hoping that the market will start coming back up so we can get some better investments there. From the portfolio maturity on the bottom of that first page and on the next page, you can see that our longer term investments that we used to have in 21 to 25 years have all moved into that 16 to 20 year range, and a lot of the shorter term investments have matured, and that is where that increase in the money market has come from. There is a third page in your packet, which is the financial data. I had not necessarily intended to do that until I could give you the September figures. Those figures for August are very preliminary. We do quarterly adjustments to make sure that everything is in the right programs, and some of those numbers would change. At the next board meeting, I should have those September numbers. We are in the process of finishing up our financial statements as well, so hopefully we will have some financial information as well. Do you have any questions for me? I believe that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Are there any comments or questions for members of the board for Ginger? Hearing none, you're done. We did have some new arrivals after we introduced ourselves. If we can get the mic to those new arrivals, I would appreciate it.
Good morning. I'm Lauren Olson, the Affordable Housing Program Manager from the City of Bozeman.
Thank you. We had some. Oh.
I don't believe you two were here. Sorry.
Good morning. I'm Lori Harris, and I work with Missoula Interfaith Collaborative in Missoula, but I'm here as a citizen today.
Good morning. I'm Joan Furno. I'm here from Missoula. I'm also here as a private citizen.
Gwen Jones here from the Missoula City Council.
We had a couple in the front row here. The Nicholsons.
Great.
Nancy Nicholson with Project Management in Helena.
Alan Nicholson with the Serendipity Apartments, soon to be the Fire Tower Apartments.
Thank you. Is there anybody that we've missed? All right, we can move on to home ownership.
Good morning. The first item on the agenda this morning is Bozeman HRDC Tiny Homes Mortgage. This is, I set on your table this morning, it's a 2-page stapled item, and it says board item agenda on the front of it. As part of the Affordable Housing Plan, HRDC built the Bell Street Tiny Homes development utilizing the Affordable Ordinance last year. The project is the first of its kind in Bozeman. It is part of the Affordable Housing Pilot Program called Humble Homes. The project consists of 2 lots, each with a single-family home and detached garage that share a 0 lot line. The properties have been placed into HRDC's existing community land trust. One of the homes, the larger of the 2, which is referred to as the box loft, is 600 square feet and sold and was financed with an FHA loan from Montana Housing Set-Aside Program. The smaller one, called Tidbit, is approximately 300 square feet with a loft and an oversized crawl space. HRDC has an interested and qualified borrower, but they're running into trouble with financing of the home due to no comps with 300 square feet to justify the price point. The property qualifies in all other ways for FHA, but without comps, it cannot be insured. The purchase price of the home is $140,000. The borrower qualifies for almost $30,000 in home funds. And with that and other gift funds available, the board could provide an uninsured first mortgage with a loan to value of less than 80% to help establish comps in the area for future sales on similar tiny homes. Staff has discussed the financing of this home with the lender, and there is not another 30-year fixed rate option for this borrower. A portfolio loan by the bank would likely be a 15-year adjustable rate loan. A few things that must be taken into consideration when making the decision as to whether or not to offer financing for this home are that the board currently has a policy that limits the number of units that it will finance in a project to avoid becoming the only lender in an entire project. We will finance 25% of larger projects and 50% of smaller ones, and we currently hold the loan on the other home in this project in our portfolio. And one other point of consideration is that with if no other tiny homes become available in this market, then there might not be comps when this borrower decides to sell, and we could end up with this loan in our portfolio again with an uninsured loan if they have financing available to bring it down below the 80%. Even with that, those options, staff does request that the board approve financing on this tiny home. HRDC did take a risk in putting together this project and creating this tiny home model. I have spoke to other states in the western part of the United States, and they do financing on tiny homes. It can be an affordable housing option for communities that really struggle with affordability, and establishing a market is a good thing for the board to do, I feel. So.
Thank you, Vicki. Are there comments or questions from members of the board? There are comments or questions from members of the public regarding, what do you call it, Tidbit?
Good morning. I'm Tracy Minuay with HRDC 9 in Bozeman. I mostly just wanted to make myself available to answer any questions. We did sort of decide, we looked at our community needs assessment and realized that many of our households are actually quite small, and there are really no footholds in the ownership market for those households. And so we started developing a model that we thought might be helpful to the, I'm just going to keep backing away. Thought we would develop something that might be helpful to households. We also know that in our community we have a lot of small or remainder lots within neighborhoods that haven't been developed. And so we've been working with the city's GIS department to inventory those lots and determine which housing styles might work best on them, whether it's subdividing a lot like we did in this community land trust, or simply putting a smaller home on it to help provide some more supply and really some diversity of supply in our community, which is pretty much dominated by either apartment buildings or larger single-family homes that are quite expensive. But happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. The board have, Bob.
Question I have, is this ultimate mortgage will not include the land? It's held by the trust, is that correct?
That is correct.
Is it a leasehold mortgage?
It is a leasehold mortgage, and then, of course, there's the reversion policy of if this person were to be foreclosed upon and we didn't correct the foreclosure, then the separated titles join, and what is foreclosed upon is the entire parcel.
Second question is, will there be a deed restriction on this home, and if so, how long?
So the deed restriction is 75 years, and it limits appreciation on the home to 2% annually.
2% a year?
Yep.
And what is the income level that is restricted, the two?
80%.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from the members of the board? Are there, Eric? All right, are there other comments or questions from members of the public? Heather?
Apologize, Heather McMillan with Homeward. I tried to flag you before you went to questions. Just wanted to go on the record to say that we are currently sold 5 of 6 of the small homes in Missoula, and the model that Tracy is discussing is exactly the model that we had and put out in the Missoula market. 80% area median income, community land trust. Both organizations have broke a lot of trail, so to speak, between financing, tax assessment, wording between development services, even getting them on foundations. What we found is that there's a very specific type of client that is definitely the right fit, and we had our project go for sale at the same time Lee Gordon Place did, and those were townhome developments, shared walls, and people had choice. And so while it's not a simple solution in finding a home buyer that's 80% AMI and that wants to live in a small space, it gave choice, and the set aside you all did for our land trust project is very helpful. There is a limit on the funding opportunities, and so I highly recommend that you guys support this. We also had most of our problems with comps, and you don't get a comp until you go out there and put it out there. And I'm telling you that we have a lot of interest, and Bozeman will have even more interest, I would assume, from a market standpoint. And that price point, they're at 140, we were at 130 in Missoula. So I think that we're on the same page, and I highly recommend you support this.
Thank you, Heather. Are there further comments or questions from the members of the public? Bob, you'll get a chance.
I'm sorry.
Further comments or questions from members of the public? Bob, you had a question or a comment?
Just one other detail, and I could figure it out, but what will the mortgage be on this? The final mortgage after discounts and down payment assistance and so forth?
The mortgage on this would be right around $100,000. In working with the home funds on this, there's a required debt to income ratio, and there is some availability partly through the LIFT program as well as some other gift funds from the family, the home funds. So in speaking with the lender who's looking at financing or doing the loan on this, they were unsettled, but the board would be at a point where we were at or below 80% of loan to value so that we could do an uninsured loan on it.
Thank you. Other comments or questions from members of the board? Hearing none, what's your pleasure?
Connie, I move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the requested mortgage on Tidbit. Is there any further discussion from members of the board? Hearing none. Bob?
Forgive me. I think that this is going to be, particularly in our larger communities, probably a trend. Maybe we should spend some time, and if you haven't already, started to discuss a set aside and fine tune and become the experts, because these aren't isolated examples. You look at what's going on in Missoula or Billings or Bozeman or Kalispell and Great Falls, and I think that there might be an opportunity for us to learn this a little better.
I think that's an excellent suggestion. All right, hearing no further discussion from members of the board, all those in favor of the mortgage on Tidbit signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Next, I have some lender approvals. The first lender approval I have is the stapled sheet to the board agendas that were on your places this morning. Lender approval for AMCAP Mortgage. AMCAP Mortgage was founded in 2002 in Houston, Texas, and has over 900 employees operating in 120 branch locations across more than 30 states. AMCAP Mortgage has offices located in Helena and Billings, where they do business as Major Mortgage. They are interested in participating in the board's mortgage loan and MCC programs. They are approved to underwrite FHA, RD, VA, as well as approved by Ginnie Mae, Fannie Mae, and Freddie Mac. They will sell their servicing of our loans to Montana Board of Housing. All the required errors and omissions and fidelity bond insurance coverage requirements have been met per their financial statements, and AMCAP Mortgage has the equity and asset ratio that complies with the criteria of 6% for MBOH participating lenders. Their financial statements are available for the board members for review. Dorothy Cabero is on the phone to answer any questions the board might have. Staff requests that the board approve AMCAP Mortgage as a participating lender for Montana Board of Housing.
Thank you. Are there further comments from the individual on the phone? I'm sorry, I didn't get the name.
Dorothy.
Dorothy? You have to hit *2 to unmute your phone. Are there any comments or questions from members of the board? The comments or questions from members of the public regarding this request to be an approved lender? Hearing none, Chair would entertain a motion.
This is Eric. Move approval.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and approved to approve AMCAP as an approved lender for the Board of Housing Programs. Is there any further discussion from members of the board? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
The next item I have is a lender approval for Open Mortgage. Open Mortgage is a multi-channel mortgage lender that was founded in 2003 and serves thousands of clients annually. Open Mortgage maintains operation centers in Austin, Texas, and Atlanta, Georgia, where they have 60 branches in 24 states, and they are currently licensed in 46 states and the District of Columbia. Open Mortgage has an office located in Great Falls, where they have staff who have experience with board programs. Open Mortgage is interested in participating in the board's loan and MCC programs. They are approved to underwrite FHA, RD, and VA loans and are approved seller servicer for Fannie Mae. They will sell the servicing of their loans to Montana Board of Housing. All errors and omissions and fidelity bond insurance coverage requirements have been met, and per their December 31st, 2018 financial statements, Open Mortgage has an equity to asset ratio that complies with the criteria of 6% for MBOH participating lenders. Their financial statements are also available for board members' review, and Robbie Novak is available for questions. Staff requests that the board approve Open Mortgage as a participating lender for Montana Board of Housing.
Thank you, Vicki. Are there any questions or comments from members of the public, member of the board, excuse me, regarding the request for open mortgage to be approved as a Montana Board of Housing lender? Are there any comments from members of the public regarding this request? Robbie Novak, if you're here, we could hear from you. All right. Hearing no comments or questions from members of the public, members of the board, what's your pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve open mortgage as a Board of Housing lender. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you. The next item I have on the agenda is a MCC resolution approval. The mortgage credit certificate allows eligible home buyers to receive a dollar-for-dollar reduction in their federal income taxes of up to 20% of their annual interest paid on their mortgage. Borrowers can file an amended withholding statement with their employer and increase their monthly take-home pay by the amount of the credit. This additional income can be used to help qualify a borrower for a loan. The MCC can be attached to any loan statewide except for a loan financed by Montana Board of Housing. Attached is a resolution for your consideration that authorizes the use of $60 million in bond cap to provide $15 million of tax credit authority. It is a 4-to-1 trade-off. The board has adequate bond cap available to accommodate this request, so staff requests that the board approve the attached mortgage credit certificate resolution.
Thank you, Vicki. Are there comments or questions from members of the board? Bob?
Is this 20% becomes a credit rather than a deduction? Do they still get the full deduction?
They can deduct the other 80% if they qualify for deduction.
Are there further questions or comments from members of the board? Bob?
With the new higher tax, I'm missing the word. Yeah, standard deductions. Can they still take this?
They can take
if they don't itemize.
They can take the credit.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Good questions. Are there further comments or questions from members of the board? Are there comments or questions from members of the public? Hearing none, the chair would entertain a motion to approve resolution number 19-1028, SF03, MCC.
I move to approve.
We have a second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion from members of the board regarding the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to adopt resolution number 19-1028, SF03, MCC, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Update.
The last 3 pages of my portion of the board packet consists of the homeownership program dashboard. As you can see, we continue to have good production in our various loan programs through the month of September and the first part of October. This report, which was prepared on October 11th, does show that we had an remaining outstanding balance of money to be reserved in the 2019 B issue of just over $1 million. That money is now reserved up, and we have begun taking reservations for a 2019 C issue, which we have begun working with our finance team on preparing the documents to go out for another bond issue before the end of the year. What we have seen in our monthly or weekly production really is an increase. Fannie Mae has gone and they have tightened up some of the underwriting for their loans, and because of that tightening and some changes that they've made in their underwriting, it's pushing more borrowers to FHA production or FHA loans, which come to us with the availability of the down payment assistance that we have, and the rate. We're right at about market rate right now, so it's been favorable for forward production. You can see the August changes in our portfolio listed there. We did increase by a few loans in the month of August. We have seen fewer payoffs, so I think that we'll continue to see that portfolio grow slightly. Our delinquencies continue to fare well in the market, I think, with the appreciation in housing prices. People are able to sell their homes as opposed to end up in foreclosure. Loan purchases by lender, you can see how our lenders are doing both for the month of August and then what their production has been year to date. I also changed up for the portfolio information. I did change up the way I'm presenting that now. I did have a circle graph there. I did do away with that and set the numbers out so that you could actually see on line by line who's insuring our loans and the percent of the portfolio, as well as broke out the interest rates. You can see the average weighted average interest rate is 4.123, and the different interest rate tranches are presented there. And then as far as lender, realtor, and partner outreach, I have it listed there. Charlie, Julie, and I did go to the Homeward 25th anniversary celebration on October 1st, and in conjunction with that, we did stop by. Several of the Board of Housing lenders popped in and said hello and find out how production's going, and things seem to be faring well across the board. They all did comment on the fact that some borrowers are shifting over to FHA from the Fannie Mae with the tightening of the Fannie Mae underwriting. And so if you have any questions, I'm available.
Are there any comments or questions of Vicki regarding the home ownership update? Bob?
Vicki, have you had an opportunity to review the new HUD 184 regulations?
I have not.
They're still in comment period, but I was just curious if how it's going to affect bank participation. It appears to me that it's going to be a much higher hurdle for tribes that choose to make trust land loans. I'm concerned about that. And, maybe I can give you a holler. I can point out some of the issues.
Okay,
thank you.
That would be great.
Are there any further questions or comments from members of the board? Thank you, Vicki. Did you have something else?
So Mary Palkovich, she wasn't able to be here this morning.
So you're going to do the servicing update. All right,
yeah.
Thank you.
So for mortgage servicing, Mary has prepared the dashboard and the statistics are laid out there. They continue to do well as far as the delinquent loans and loans that have gone into foreclosure. They are reduced from last year's numbers. One point that Mary did want to point out is in the loss draft section up on the top. The funds held in loss draft are insurance claims that we receive on the borrower's behalf, and then we disperse those funds as the work is completed on the homes. And as you can see, it went up considerably for the month of September, up to $1.1 million from about $650,000 the month before. And there were some big storms in Billings and on the eastern side of the state, a lot of hail and wind damage, and that's the result of that. Servicing continues to do a great job in servicing our loans. You can see that the Tier 1, they continue to hold their Tier 1 ranking with FHA.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions of Vicki regarding the servicing update? there any comments or questions from members of the public regarding the servicing program? Thank you, Vicki. Multifamily.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, board members, public. The first item on our agenda is the Hardin Senior Housing request. And I believe we do have someone here to comment, and I think all the comments, do you want to go to the podium over here? Is that correct?
Yeah, that would be appropriate.
Okay, the first item is the Hardin Senior Housing request for reconsideration. The Hardin Senior Housing application was returned because of substantial non-compliance with Crestview Apartments in Big Fork, a project also owned by American Covenant Senior Housing. Crestview failed to submit their annual compliance package that was due July 25th, 2019. Crestview annual compliance package has been due July 25th for several years. Compliance staff worked with Mike Ross from the management company last year to get the annual compliance package submitted. And then there's a timeline there that gives you information about the contact that we did have with them. MBOH did have an incorrect email for Gerald Fritz, but the emails were also sent to Mike Ross and Wayne Johnson at the management company. The request and information sent by American Covenant Senior Housing is attached after this agenda item. And staff submits this request for board consideration. Staff recommends that the board does not approve this request. They did submit the annual compliance, the balance of the annual compliance package on October 7th, and Kelly reviewed that compliance package, and it is in compliance now. The problem is the delinquency in getting the compliance package submitted.
Thank you. Are there comments from the Hardin Senior Housing Program? Use the podium there. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for seeing us. The reason that this...
can you state your name, please?
Excuse me, Bob Jameson, the chair of the board for American Covenant Senior Housing.
Thank you.
And Crestview Senior Apartments has been in compliance for 9 years. The reason that we had this failure was a computer problem from CenturyLink to our email addresses to our executive director. That started in early March. As he would open his emails, they would make it difficult and make all of the Excel, particularly programs, invalid. So we had technicians working on that early through March. And if you've ever worked with computer problems and glitches, they're very frustrating and time consuming. So once we determined, and the technicians determined that our email address was at fault instead of any of the other programs, that's where the virus was associated, we set up an additional email address for Gerald Fritz, who's the executive director. We also set up a bounce back for the infected email address, and that was to continue for some time. The office assistant said she was told a year. But that bounce back stopped just before, at the end of May. So all of the emails and resources that we've got from Montana Board of Housing, from Renee Oliphant, went to an address that was not monitored. And so when we heard of this non-compliance, we fixed it. We got together, did what we needed to do, and fixed it. So what we're looking at is a waiver so that the city of Hardin can have this project implemented and done. USDA would like to see it done. The city would certainly like to see it done. And the tenants would certainly like to see it done. So it is something that the board can do. It is something that we would ask them to do, that they provide this waiver so that we can be included in this round. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jameson. Are there comments or questions from the board of Mary or Mr. Jameson? Bob?
This would be for Mr. Jameson. Do your operation have a calendar of required reports for other projects, or do you rely on notice from the entity?
Well, we do both. The person establishing the calendar did not follow through, so that was just a failure there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there further comments or questions of Mary or Mr. Jameson from the board? Are there comments or questions from members of the public regarding this agenda item? Hearing none. What's your pleasure, board? Hearing no motion to provide this waiver, we'll move on to the next agenda item.
I think I'm up, right? I'm up then. So we're going to move into the award process for the 2020 housing credits. And I want to just go over kind of how we handle this and what this process will look like this morning. First, we're going to have Kelly, and I believe she has a video this year that will show all of the sites, and we'll walk through that. We'll then move into a process where we're going to have public comment on any project we'll talk about today in case someone is here and needs to leave. We will then go down the list by project, and we would ask that the developers give us any updates. We do not want a new presentation, please, just updates to your project from when you first presented it at the letter of intent. We'll accept public comment on those projects at that point also. Mary will start each project off with some notes that she has for each one, and we will kind of walk through that process. At the end, we'll also allow a time for public comment on any project that we've talked about. Then we'll go into an executive action process where each board member will walk through and discuss their top 5 priority projects, and we'll keep a tally of that, which will give us an indication of similar priorities among the projects. We will then take a break where board members can kind of consider where things are at that point. Staff can regroup and make sure we have everything correct. That break, we'd appreciate, allowing individual board members some time to reflect, so isn't probably a time to be visiting with them fully. We'll then come back and we will basically, the board will develop a slate of projects and how they're wanting to award those projects. Again, allowing public comment throughout the entire process. And as you can see, we allow a lot of time for public comment. It's very important, but I do want to just talk about a little bit of the ground rules around public comment. The chair, Chair Melby, it's basically his responsibility to keep this process flowing, and he does have the authority to limit public comment if things are kind of taking longer than they should. We ask, if you're given public comment, that you do not repeat comments of a previous speaker. Please just concur, and then you have the option to present any new thoughts or ideas that you might have. And we ask that you be brief, just to be courteous to everyone and give everyone a little bit of time to be able to make their comments too. So after that.
Thank you, Bruce. Mary, would you give us your review, please?
Okay, Kelly's going to do a presentation of the projects. We have a video this year instead of pictures, so we would like your input on that after the meeting, if you would, please.
Thank you. Kelly.
Okay, so the first project we have is Nicole Court. The site is located in Stevensville. It's new construction with 16 homes for families and seniors. Services available include a credit union, gas station, police, fire department, library, senior center, pharmacy, bank, pool, park, grocery store, post office, a healthcare center, and dial-a-ride is available 8 to 5 Monday through Friday.
No, that's okay.
The next project is Homestead Lodge. This site is located in Absaroka. It's an existing 32 homes for seniors with rural development and a manager's unit. Units have rental assistance. Services available include a grocery store, banks, medical clinic, senior center, fire station, post office, and park with a pool. The next location is Paxson Place. The site is located in Butte. New construction with 36 homes for seniors. 1 home will be for a manager. Services available include shopping, a bank, bus stop, gas station, Walmart, park, post office, fire station, hospital, library, senior center. The bus stop is 0.1 mile from the site. Timber Ridge is located in Bozeman. This is new construction with 30 homes for seniors. Services available include a bus stop, park, post office, convenience store, bank, grocery, medical clinic, shopping, senior center, library, and hospital. The bus stop is also 0.1 mile from the site. The next project is Skyview, that's located in Missoula. It's new construction with 36 homes for seniors. 1 home would be for a manager. Services include grocery, post office, gas station, fire station, shopping, hospital, mall, Walmart, senior center, and the library. The bus stop is 0.1 mile from this site. Pioneer Meadows is located in Dillon. This is new construction with 28 homes for families. 1 home will be for a manager. The services available include a grocery store, fire station, bank, shopping, gas station, schools, park, urgent care, library, post office, and a hospital. And the city bus is a dial-a-ride service. The next project is Fire Tower. It's located in Helena. It's existing 44 homes for families, seniors, and disabled. Some of the units have project-based rental assistance. Some of the services available include a bus stop, library, park, senior center, bank, schools, post office, fire station, grocery, and a hospital. The bus stop is 0.1 miles from this location. In Mountain View, this is part of the Timber Ridge, the 9-4 project. This property is located in Hamilton. It's existing 36 homes for families. Services include schools, aquatic center, park, pharmacy, gas station, bank, urgent care, shopping, post office, library, fire station, and the hospital. And the other part of that 4-9 deal is the Bitterroot Villas, and this is located in Darby. It's an existing 16 homes for families. Services include schools, grocery store, bank, fire station, dollar store, fire station, post office, library, medical clinic, and a bank.
Thank you. Any members of the board have any questions or comments of the site visits done by Kelly? Any member of the public have any comments or questions of Kelly regarding the site visits?
So as you can see, we are not professional videographers. I'd like to thank Todd for putting those clips that we did together. He's very good at editing that kind of stuff. So
we're moving on to project updates. According to my script here. But Mary, it's your program. You handle it.
Okay. So the board agenda item. I have a little information for you. So you have this agenda item. The deadline for the submittal of the 2020 Housing Credit full applications was July 29th of 2019. Your choices for the slate of applications will be 5 this round. Applications are now limited to 20% of the available credits. In the past, they were limited to 25, so that's why we're asking you to do 5 instead of 4. And it is not unusual for zoning to not be in place at the time of awards. Some of the communities will not even consider changing zoning until after an award is made. Housing Solutions is only eligible for 1 award. So either Skyview in Missoula or Paxson Place in Butte. You'd have to choose one of those if you were awarding Housing Solutions. If an application were to be partially funded, resize and submit an application within 30 days. staff would recommend that it not be one of the small rural applications or the acquisition rehab applications. Those applications are very hard to resize and to a lesser amount of credits. And then there you have a list of items that were in your packet. The 10% nonprofit set-aside requirement may be met by an award to an application involving a qualified nonprofit organization out of any other set-aside or general application pool. So we need to make sure that we meet that 10%, which is usually easily done, but we do need to designate that that one is nonprofit. I think that is it. And then do you want them to make comments up front or as we go?
Excuse me, I was just following the script I was giving, and
okay.
At this point is project updates, if there are any from the projects.
Okay.
Guess we can start with Nicole Court. Jim, if you wouldn't mind going to the podium and using the mic there.
Good morning. My name is Jim Morton. I'm with the Human Resource Council. I apologize for my voice, so just have to bear with it. People have told me it sounds like The Godfather, but not really. Just as a reminder, the target population for this project will be disabled individuals, seniors, and those who are victims of domestic violence or those who are fleeing sexual assault. One of the key components of that will be that for our tenant selection process, we will be able to tailor that to those specific groups. It's very difficult for those who are victims of domestic violence to find housing. One of the reasons for that is credit, lack of references, and perhaps disruption in jobs. So we're working with the supporters of abuse-free environment in the Bitterroot to partner with us. As a quick reminder, the land is donated, 3 acres. We have a grant from the Federal Home Loan Bank in the amount of $575,000. We are shovel ready. Zoning's in place. The pre-engineering has been done. And Bob Robinson, our staff architect, is here. If there are any questions, then I'll be quiet because I'm sure my voice is aggravating everybody.
Thank you, Jim. Are there any other comments from the public or regarding Nicole Court?
We do have people on the phone, as I understand it.
Somebody is on the phone.
Mr. Chairman, my name is, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
My name is John Phills, and I'm the Executive Director at River Valley Head Start in Hamilton. We also provide Head Start and Early Head Start services, well, both in River Valley and Missoula County. But we also serve children and families in Stevensville, and we are very much in support of this project because, as Jim just said, this is an extremely vulnerable population, and what you're dealing with here is, in my world, something called adverse childhood experiences, which is childhood trauma. So when you combine, one of the things that we know research shows now is that children who are insecure in their housing or homeless suffer long-term damage from that reality. And when you combine that with exposure to domestic violence, the problem increases exponentially. So we stand very much behind this project. We currently have 17 slots of Head Start in Stevensville. One of the challenges with housing in Stevensville and with income levels in Stevensville is that if we had additional federal funding, we have a waiting list in Stevensville that equals the number of children we serve. So we are way under the need in the north end of the valley. And for that reason, anything that we will support this project and any similar project that expands capacity for housing to what is an extremely vulnerable population.
Thank you, John. Are there further comments or questions from members of the public? Mary, you had some comments.
Okay, just some notes, staff notes and comments. Nicole Court in Stevensville is new construction. It's a family property with planning 16 homes. Will be universal design with 2 and 3 bedrooms and 2 full baths, great for families with kids and elderly needing full-time in-home caregiving. Vacancy rate is 0%. This is the 5th time you have seen this application for Nicole Court. The last housing credit property done in Stevensville was an RD senior property in 1990.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from members of the public? Yes?
Hello? Hi,
Hello?
this is Stacy. Hi. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, great. This is Stacy Umhigh, and I'm the director of SAFE, located in Hamilton. And we provide services to domestic and sexual violence survivors in the Bitterroot Valley. And I also just wanted to really encourage you to select this project. And SAFE operates 2 short-term housing programs. One of them is a transitional housing program for families who are fleeing domestic violence, and we can provide housing for up to 24 months. And another is a rapid rehousing program where we can provide community-based rental assistance for up to 12 months. All the families utilizing those programs are homeless because of domestic violence in the Bitterroot Valley. And we're currently serving 24 families. So what that means is that within the next 12 to 24 months, we'll have 24 families at a minimum who we know are needing permanent housing. And what we're finding in our shelter, in our transitional housing program, in our rapid rehousing program, is that folks simply cannot locate that affordable housing here in the Bitterroot. For all those reasons that Jim mentioned, credit issues, lack of references, job interruptions, we're finding people are shut out from housing throughout the valley. We have a couple of affordable housing options. They're almost always full with a waiting list. Those that will work with the folks that we serve. Other affordable housing programs in the Bitterroot Valley simply won't work with folks who have the kinds of barriers that Jim alluded to. I also just want to say, like you just heard, this project has been on the table for a number of years. And so I just really want to encourage you to select this project. Thanks.
Thank you. Further comments or questions from members of the public? Comments or questions from members of the board? Thank you, Jim. Mary, we'll move on to Homestead Lodge.
Homestead Lodge is in Absaroka. It's an acquisition rehab. It's a senior property with 32 homes. It's the only subsidized affordable housing in the community of Absaroka. There are no vacancies at the property. The vacancy rate in Absaroka is 0. This is the 4th time you have seen this application for Homestead. The last housing credit project done in Absaroka was this property in 1997.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public with comments or questions regarding this project?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. we're so grateful that we were chosen to submit an application on this property. As you can see, this is a property that for seniors 62 and older.
Can I interrupt you for a moment?
Yes,
Would you identify yourself for
yes.
the please? Thank you.
My name's Diane Hunt. I'm with Syringa Housing Corp. This property is for seniors 62 and older and persons with disabling conditions. It's a one bedroom. We have a few 2-bedroom apartments there. As you could see by the video, it is in need of some upgrades and updating, and we are very pleased to be here. We have good, Absaroka is an unincorporated area, although the little village there has been supportive of our application. We've also obtained support from the Stillwater County Economic Development, and we look forward to being able to provide a rehabilitation to this apartment community. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Further comments or questions from members of the public regarding the Homestead Lodge project? Are there questions or comments from members of the board? Hey, Mary, thank you, Diane. We can move on to the
Paxson Place in Butte is new construction. It would be a senior property, 36 homes. Meadowlands, a senior housing credit property in Butte, is fully leased with 75 names on their wait list, and that was a 2010 credit award. The vacancy rate in Butte is 0. The last housing credit property done and is under construction in Butte was Copper Ridge 9 and 4 in 2018.
Thank you. Alex, would you like to address the board, please?
Sure. Good morning, Chairman Melmy, members of the board. Alex Burkhalter from Housing Solutions. Just by way of a very brief update on Butte, since the LOI, we've continued to gain support from different community stakeholders, the Senior Center, the Affordable Housing, or the Butte Affordable Housing. As Mary just shared, the need continues to be great. Butte isn't always top of mind when you think of a community with need, but you know, their housing stock is so old, and like all of Montana, their population is aging, that senior housing is incredibly needed in Butte. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Are there further comments or questions from members of the public regarding Paxson Place? Are there comments or questions from members of the board? Thank you, Alex. Timber Ridge.
Timber Ridge is in Bozeman. It's would be new construction, a senior property, 30 homes. This is the 9% side of the 9-4 application. Next door to Timber Ridge would be next door to Stone Ridge, a property that some of you toured when we were in Bozeman for a board meeting. Stone Ridge was fully leased in less than 1 month. It's a family property with 0 vacancies and has 17 seniors residing there who would prefer to live in a building more suited to their needs. The vacancy rate is 0. This is the 4th time you've seen an application for Timber Ridge. The last 9% housing credit property done in Bozeman was Stone Ridge in 2015.
Thank you. Are there comments or questions from members of the public?
Yes, we'll keep it brief. My name's Rusty Snow. Yeah, we don't have any major updates. Continue to gather support from not only our local partners with HRDC and the city of Bozeman, but also through Senator's offices, House of Representatives, which I think you guys have seen also. As Mary said, this is the 4th time we've submitted this, so we feel pretty comfortable with our plan that we've presented. We feel comfortable with our costs, and continue to feel like this is a very successful, or could be a very successful application if awarded, and be ready to start tomorrow if approved.
Thank you. Further comments or questions from members of the public?
Tracy Minuet with HRDC 9 in Bozeman. I'm going to follow the instructions and simply concur. Deeply needed project. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Further comments or questions?
Morning, Terry Cunningham, Bozeman City Commissioner. This project is zoned properly. Utilities are in place. I want to follow your direction and just give an update since the last application of what's happening in Bozeman. We, as the city of Bozeman, have conducted a needs assessment, affordable housing needs assessment, found that there's stress along the entire continuum of housing, including senior housing, that we need 5,800 new homes to be created within the next 5 years, 60% of which would need to be affordable. The city of Bozeman has increased its funding of our workforce housing to historic highs in our last budget. We have hired Lauren Olson, our affordable housing program manager, and we have an action plan that involves the entire community ready to go, and we support this project wholeheartedly and will be supporting it financially as well. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Further comments or questions?
Jim Morton with HRC. This summer, HRC has agreed to be an administrative general partner for the projects in Hamilton and Darby if the 4.9% project is approved.
Thank you, Jim. Further comments or questions? Rusty, could you describe the 4% portion of this application?
Yes, sorry, I focused on the competitive part, but yeah, so the 4% transaction are two 15-year deals that are currently in Summit's portfolio that have come out of that initial compliance period. One is in Darby, 16 units, and the other is Mountain View Apartments, and I believe that is 36 units. So the way that we're kind of viewing this particular project is, we're hitting 3 communities, about 82 units or 82 families. Families or seniors will be impacted by an approval of this project.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from members of the board? Rusty, are the Darby and Hamilton projects, are those rehab projects?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? We can move on to Skyview. Thank you, Rusty. And
Skyview is in Missoula. It would be new construction, a senior property, 39 homes. The 4 housing credit senior properties in Missoula have no vacancies and have wait lists of 15 to 162 households. The vacancy rate is 0. The last 9% housing credit property done in Missoula was Sweetgrass Commons in 2015.
Thank you. Alex?
Good morning again. Alex Burkhalter with Housing Solutions for Skyview. A bit more to update you on this project. There have been some slight technical changes to the project. At letter of intent, we'd proposed 39 units. We've decreased that slightly from 39 to 36. The building itself just fit better at the site at slightly less units. Those changes also came after several meetings with the neighborhood in the immediate area and some things that the neighbors were discussing. Correspondingly, we have reduced our credit request just slightly so that the metrics themselves kind of scaled from 39 to 36. On the community front, and you'll hear a little bit about this, so I'll be quick. We've had lots of community meetings in all the projects that I've worked on. I don't know that we've had more community engagement than this one. Support from all across the town. Affordable housing in Missoula is household conversation. It doesn't seem like a day goes by that there's not an article about another record-breaking housing cost study coming out. So many community meetings, individual meetings. There's been a lot of discussion going into this project. We have had some folks opposed to us. You'll see their letters of opposition as well as our support. Unsurprisingly, and also understandably, that's come from the folks in the immediate area, as it is, going to be a building they'll look at. But I'm confident in what we develop and who will be living there. That give it some time, and it truly will turn into something that even they enjoy having. At a macro community level, since the letter of intent, the city of Missoula has adopted their new housing policy. And that housing policy speaks to projects just like this needing to be done in Missoula. So we're excited to be, as a group, bringing that before you. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Hang on, Alex. Can you make the screen white again? It's pretty dark over there in the corner.
Doing what I can.
Maybe you need me to come over there and stand by. Are there further comments from the members of the public regarding the Skyview project? We can. Thank you.
Good morning, members of the State Board of Housing. My name is Susan Kohler. I'm the CEO of Missoula Aging Services, and we are Area 7 Agency on Aging, if you're familiar with Area Agencies on Aging. Our mission is to promote the independence, dignity, and health of older adults and those that care for them. I'm here today in support of the Skyview project. You are all aware of the aging of our state. You're also aware of how safe and affordable housing are essential for a person at any age, especially an older adult whose income is likely not to increase after retirement. In Missoula, this is especially challenging with the high cost of housing caused by a variety of factors that are not easily or quickly remedied. Housing Solutions Skyview project will provide 36 affordable units for persons 55 and older, and it's in a good location, safe, and it will have the amenities that allow a person to age in place. For Missoula Aging Services, this environment provides the most efficient way for us to deliver services that may be required as a person aging. That includes meals, homemaking, and personal care, to name a few. There is transportation nearby, and if a person can't safely make it to the bus stop, they're in the Urban Transportation District and will have access to the door-to-door paratransit service if physically or cognitively impaired. There are grocery stores nearby and food delivery services if a person can no longer navigate shopping on their own. Healthcare is close, and the housing facility will be in a neighborhood setting that for older adults will feel more like a home environment. Equally important to all of these features is that the environment will help residents avoid social isolation and loneliness. Probably the best way, and a little different from the other testimonies, is to give you a few stories about the kinds of people that will be impacted by this housing being available. Missoula Aging Services offers a foster grandparent and senior companion program, which is a federally funded program that provides a tax-free stipend of $2.65 an hour for their volunteer service of on the average 20 hours a week. We have 45 foster grandparents and we have 35 senior companions. Their average income is $11,000 a year, and that is predominantly just Social Security as their sole source. I've changed some of the names, of course, to protect the innocent or identity, however you want to look at it. Cheryl is a foster grandparent who went between living with family members and living in her van on or a homeless shelter until she was able to move into an apartment. Some winter days she couldn't make it to the school to volunteer because it was too cold for her van to start. She said she was unable to do anything without the stipend she received from the foster grandparent program. Her quote, "All of my stipend is going to rent, back electricity bills, and paying minimum payments on credit card debt." She said even declaring bankruptcy costs money. She is currently on the wait list for more affordable housing. Jane lives in a fifth wheel on her kids' property because she just can't afford an apartment. She had some money in savings, but went through that fast as she had to take time off of being a stipended volunteer to care for her great-grandkids during the time of her older grandchild was battling cancer. Aside from not being able to afford decent housing, she is struggling to have enough money each month to have a company empty her sewer tank in her RV. Mary is currently living in the same apartment as she did when she applied for the Senior Companion Program a year ago. She is struggling to stay afloat. A friend paid her rent for 6 months, and that helped her. She is widow and has been on a wait list for Section 8 housing for over a year. And one success story about the value of a tax credit is about an older man who is a dialysis patient who lived in the south side of our town, not close to the dialysis center. He had multiple health conditions and his income was limited and his current rent high. Our case manager helped him fill out an application to a tax credit facility within 2 blocks of the dialysis center. And the stars must have aligned as he was able to get in that housing within 3 to 4 months. He also was close to Barnes & Noble, where he loves to go and read, and close to a gym that allows him to exercise for free when he's feeling strong enough. These are just a few stories to share with you about our housing demand in Missoula. As I mentioned in earlier testimony, our agency gets calls from older adults desperate for affordable housing every week, and there are limited options due to existing unaffordable rents, waiting lists, and at least a 2.5-year wait list for landlord and for Section 8 housing vouchers. Even with a voucher, finding landlords who will charge within the Section 8's rent parameters is hard to find. Lastly, aging wears a woman's face. A woman's income is sharply declined after their spouse dies, or they didn't make as much as a single woman or a divorcee. Dignity with age is difficult to achieve without safe and affordable housing. Housing Solutions Skyview Housing Project is desperately needed in Missoula. I hope you take that into consideration, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there further public comment?
Good morning. My name is Gwen Jones. I'm on the Missoula City Council representing Ward 3. Thanks for the opportunity to come and speak to this morning. I wanted to, first of all, tell you that the City of Missoula is very supportive of this project. And to just give you a snapshot of the need in Missoula, I think the new statistics that came out within the last couple of months are that to buy a house in Missoula, the median average price of a house is $307,000. In order to qualify to purchase a house, you have to have close to $100,000 in income, but our median average income is $54,000. And when you isolate renters out as a group, not only is their income $29,000 approximately as an average, it tends to be going down. So we're seeing this situation in Missoula of this trajectory, and this gap is just dramatically widening, which impacts the entire community. So we're very supportive of this project, and I just wanted to give you a little sense of what Missoula as a community is doing to address this. We have a growth policy that was passed in 2015 that focused on an inward-focused growth policy, meaning building within the city where there is infrastructure and building more densely. This Skyview project does exactly that, so it's very much in line with our growth policy. And then for the last 2 years, we spent a lot of time researching, analyzing, gathering in information, and in June of 2019, we passed a housing policy for Missoula to really try and address this issue holistically. And it looks at all of the different tools available, and we want to, of course, preserve existing housing, but also create new housing. We're looking at using city resources and all sorts of different things. How can we incentivize developers to be building less expensively and targeting affordable housing? How can we do infrastructure sequencing to facilitate this? Tax increment financing, land donations. So as a community, everyone is stepping up trying to tackle this because we've seen, the future looks very different if as a community we're not able to keep our young people in town and keep our seniors in town. So I just wanted to give you that message that we're working very hard on this. The 9% tax credits, of course, are a crucial tool to truly move the needle in terms of getting new units built. And the Skyview project fits all of our boxes. There is a lot of support at a city level for this, and we hope you seriously consider it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further public comment?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Lori Harris, and I'm a citizen of Missoula, Montana. I want to give you a little bit of a timeline to where I am today as a citizen, as someone who's been renting in Missoula for a fair amount of time. I've been, first of all, I worked at United Way in Missoula for 5 years, and now I'm with the Missoula Interfaith Collaborative, and I'm honored and blessed to be in that community and in that industry, if you will, in the community. It's been an amazing trip. Looking at rents, and I've been thinking a lot about this. My family was paying $50 a month for rent when I was a child. $50. And I suppose it wasn't a great home, but it was a decent home, and we grew up there. I believe it went up to $75 at one point, and that was a real push in 1970. I came here to Missoula in 1995, and my rent was $495 for a two-bedroom apartment. Again, not a great place, but it was solid and safe in a good neighborhood. In 2006, I got a studio. So that's a big drop from a two-bedroom apartment to a studio for $550 a month is what it started at. 2013, I managed to find a two-bedroom, not a great place and not a great neighborhood for $695. And I thought, wow, that's a great deal, because I was basically homeless before that. I had just come back to Missoula. I was unemployed. I was doing the best I could. Was able to move up to another two-bedroom that was much nicer for $795, which then the rent, of course, is going up every year, and that until a couple of years ago, my sister and she came to live with me. Well, her intent wasn't to live with me, but she got to Missoula and found out you can't rent a place in Missoula on Social Security survivor's benefits on your own. Well, not someplace you'd want to live. You just can't do it. So she went to work at a grocery store for $9 an hour, almost 30 years of experience in the grocery industry, and she's making $9 an hour. And that's pretty sad. There's something wrong with that. So we decided that she's going to stay with me, because look at what we could afford if we put our resources together, what we could rent if we stayed together. So we decided that maybe we could get to know each other after 40 years of hardly seeing each other at all, and two different people from different worlds, but we're making it work. And we found a two-bedroom house. Well, it was bigger than that, but anyway, $1,500 a month. That's a lot of rent. It's a lot of money every month that you could be doing something else with some of that money if you weren't paying that much rent. It was huge, but it was also, wow, look what we get to live in. It's a house, not an apartment on the third floor somewhere. It was just wonderful. But as I said, I work for a nonprofit. Nonprofits are not known for some of the highest wages. But we don't complain. It's good work, and we're glad to be there. On the other hand, you got to pay the same amounts that everybody else does. You don't get a discount just because you work for a nonprofit. Wouldn't that be great? So I'm glad to be sharing a home. I'm glad to have a home. And recently, I was able to buy a home. Now, that sounds great, and it really, really is. It's absolutely amazing. You're talking about mortgage tax credits and things. I'm like, oh, that applies to me now. It's a manufactured home in the county. So it's far, far under the median priced home in Missoula. I could not begin to afford a median priced home in the city of Missoula. And it's not like it's miles out of town. Well, literally it is. It's 2 miles out of town. And it's a great place, and I love it. And I don't think that I would compare it to a stick-built home, nor that I think, wow, wouldn't it be great if? I don't, but wouldn't it be great if? There are a lot of people that are in my situation and in much worse situations that need a home. Even an apartment would be great for them, and they're not there. They're simply not available in Missoula. So that's why I'm here today, is to speak to that. There's no $50 rent anymore, and there never will be. But if we can make something
safe and affordable, that's what we need to do. That's the right thing to do. This project, as far as I know, is the first one to come up after the housing plan that we worked really, really hard on was passed in July of this year. And I'm really, really hoping that this project can move forward, be an example for future projects, and that we can really start making some headway in Missoula and in the state of Montana for affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further public comment regarding Skyview? Questions or comments from members of the board regarding Skyview?
Chairman, this is Johnny McCluskey. Alex, what's the new amount then that you're requesting based on your reduction in units?
590 an annual credit, or 5.9 million.
Thank you. Further comments or questions? All right, we can move on to Pioneer Meadows. Thank you, Alec.
Pioneer Meadows in Dillon would be new construction, family property with 28 homes. Dillon has an aging housing stock. Almost 60% of the renters are paying more than 30% of their income to rent, and 29% pay over 50% of their income. The vacancy rate is 5.2%. The last housing credit property done in Dillon was Snowcrest in 2003.
Thank you. There's a public comment regarding Pioneer Meadows.
Good morning. I'm Blake Jumper with the Housing Company. Don't have any major updates on Pioneer Meadows, but a couple things to highlight. As Mary said, it's been over 15 years since Dillon has had a award of tax credits. This piece of property that we have, I think, is pretty special. It's right in downtown Dillon, just off the main drag, and this is our second year submitting. And getting that property tied up again this year was pretty difficult. I think the seller, after going through this with us last year, had some concerns. But we were able to tie it up to the end of this year. If awarded today, the housing company would be purchasing the land outright and bringing it to the partnership at that time. So we do have a lot in this deal already. As Mary mentioned too, I thought something interesting from our market study is that 60% of renter households in Dillon are paying more than 30% of their income to rent, and 29% of those are paying over 50%. So we're seeing a very rent-burdened community, and that, along with where our location is and being zoned appropriately, we're ready to move forward. That's all I have.
Thank you. There are further comments from members of the public regarding Pioneer Meadows.
Mr. Chairman, Blake, there was some noise, some opposition that was clearly, I think I read, I don't even know if I read it in the paper or what, another landowner, apartment owner, whatever, said Dillon doesn't need this. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I wouldn't like to name names, but there is someone who owns I guess they think it's a competing low-income community in town. I think they see it as competition. And the upkeep of their property, I think they probably will have some concerns, because if there was something that was built new, there's going to be more demand for that. I did visit that property, and this gentleman had some opposition there, but I don't, for him to come out the way he did, I don't think it's great for the community. There's obviously a need, but for his own personal motives, I think there's some concern on his end.
Thanks. I appreciate your response.
Yeah. Thank you. With further comments or questions from members of the board? Hearing none. Fire Tower.
Fire Tower is in Helena. It would be an acquisition rehab. It's senior, disabled, and family, 44 homes. Fire Tower is a project-based Section 8 property with HAP for 24 homes. That's housing assistance. Wish Camper Development has been able to secure an additional 14 rental assistance. It will also convert 20 market rate homes to affordable. Vacant units at Fire Tower will be used during the rehab for relocation purposes of moving tenants around. Vacancy rate in Helena is 1%. The last housing credit property done in Helena is starting construction. That's Red Alder with 9 and 4. And that was in 2019. Before that, it was River Rock in 2013.
Thank you. Members of the public have comments regarding this project?
Good morning. I'm Tyson O'Connell with Wishcamper Development. I have just a couple updates. Before I do those, I want to start by thanking Kelly and Mary for driving all over the state and looking at these great projects and for putting together the video so that the board could see it and the public could see it. And for the board, thanks for your service. I know on days like today when we're driving from all over the state and there's weather, we all appreciate it, so thank you. You've received our application summarizing our project, the Fire Tower, which is currently known as Serendipity. I have 3 quick updates. The first is with the new project-based Section 8 contract that we're moving from Lewistown. We've received approval from HUD, Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity, and that's in Denver. And then we expect the final approval from HUD headquarters in November. We actually already have a comfort letter that says we can use the approval that we have for to secure our financing on the project. The second relates to our National Housing Trust Fund application, which is part of this project. We have pretty deep income limits here. We have a lot of 30% AMI units, and so we'll be using National Housing Trust Funds. We've completed our National Housing Trust Fund application. We'll be submitting that in early November. And we plan to use Rocky Mountain Development Council for our grantee. Rocky's Affordable Housing Director, Liz Mogstead, is here today, and I think she'll have some comments. And then the third is the support from the community. After we submitted our LIHTC application, we presented at the Hometown Helena, and we conducted a resident meeting as required by the National Housing Trust Fund application. And I think you have a number of support letters that we included with our application. But after the application, we received 38 letters of support from organizations, private citizens, and from Fire Tower residents. In the interest of time, I have not asked all 38 of those people to come speak today, since we're the last on the list. But I do have a couple people that will be speaking up here, and I just really appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. Further comments from the public?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Alan Nicholson. I've lived in Helena since 1970. I grew up in Roundup and went to school at Montana State College and came to Helena in 70 to work for the state. And in 75, I quit that job and started developing in the downtown. The 2 first projects that we did were apartment projects. Claim Stake, which is at the end of Last Chance Gulch. It's across the street from what was the federal building. And Serendipity. Serendipity's at the end of Broadway. As you come into the downtown, if you don't stop and turn right, you would run right into it. And actually somebody did that and wound up in a bathroom. Nobody was in the bathroom at the time. I was young when I started and even more naive then than I am now, and didn't really understand what I was getting into. That project was begun in 1967, and we've owned the project for 42 years now. And it's the only subsidized project that we have. And it's in some ways the most interesting because we serve a lot of elderly and handicapped people who kind of make our management team their family. People come to Serendipity, live in Serendipity, some for many years, up to 20, and they die in Serendipity, soon to be Fire Tower. If it's old, and it's in need of refurbishing. And I'm old and in need of refurbishing as well. But Serendipity actually can be refurbished. And it's hard to see how it could continue as subsidized housing in Helena if it's not refurbished. At least I don't believe it can be redone as a subsidized project without your help. It's 44 existing units. We're not adding new units. We're keeping existing units in the central business district, which contains all of the rest of our projects. So I hope that you will look kindly on this project, believe in the service that it gives to Helena residents, especially the elderly and the handicapped, and what it contributes to our city and to the downtown. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Further comments? Liz?
Thanks. Good morning. I'm Liz Mogstead with Rocky Mountain Development Council. Just wanted to say that as soon as I was listening on the phone last board meeting, as soon as I heard Fire Tower was invited, I immediately called Tyson and said, can I support you? This is so awesome. We've been trying to do this property, I bet, for 10 years. And it's complicated, and these guys did it right, and they brought vouchers in, and I think that they're going to do a great job. We are more than excited about it. And these house a lot of our clients. We're at the senior center right next door. So again, just wanted to echo our support as the local HRDC and fellow developer that we can't wait to see this get done. Thanks.
Thank you, Liz. Further public comment?
Good morning, members of the board. For the record, my name is Sharon Haugen. I'm the Community Development Director from the City of Helena. I guess, obviously, to reiterate, the city is in strong support of this project. But since the last time we were together, I testify in front of you, the City of Helena has just passed a new downtown zoning district. I'd like to say that this project is compatible with that zoning district. It's going to take effect November 4th. The intent of the zoning district is to create more flexibility for redevelopment in downtown, but to also encourage affordable housing. We're going to try to, with this zoning district, create new affordable housing, but the existing affordable housing in the downtown is such a critical asset to our community, asset to the downtown, and I would strongly encourage you to support this project and grant the tax credits. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Further public comment?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and board members. My name is Jennifer Deher, and I work with project management. Currently, we manage Serendipity Apartments. I just want to stress the need that there is 24 handicapped and or disabled, elderly and disabled. And then there's the 20 units that are market rent, and I see, the struggle that the market rent folks go through, and how they would benefit for low income, and how many phone calls I receive every day of folks who need low income housing. So I hope that you accept this, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there any further public comment? Tyson?
Yeah, this is Tyson O'Connell again with Wishcamper. I have one point of clarification. There are currently 24 subsidized units here, which have a project-based HAP contract. The other 20 are market. So Mr. Nicholson spoke and said, this is an existing project in downtown. It is. We are rehabbing those units, but we're also adding 20 units to the new housing stock, which will be affordable. Because without that affordability restriction on those 20 units, they would be rehabbed, and likely the rents would go up. They wouldn't be rent controlled like they will after the LIHTC program. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyson. Further comments from members of the public? Are there questions or comments from members of the board? All right, we have an opportunity at this point for any member of the public to comment on any of the projects that we have discussed. Okay, then we can move to executive action.
Okay.
I did ask if the board had any comments.
I was just looking at the last project that was presented. I do have a question for the Missoula Skyview folks, and that is, can you update us on the opposition to this project and what you think the outcome will be?
So, thank you for your question, Alex Burkhalter from Housing Solutions. We aggressively moved this project through the process of a zone change that would be required for it to be built. And because of that, there was lots of notice, especially of the neighbors in the immediate area. And we're building in an area that's about 2 acres, and about half of it is occupied by a church, and another half has been kind of a de facto place to walk your dog, just a field, not a improved area, but just an open space. And those neighbors were understandably upset about losing that. So we had lots of meetings with them, explained that senior housing is significantly less of an impact than family housing. They're much quieter neighbors and less traffic, all that kind of stuff. But what came really to light was, we'd really like a park. And we really don't want to see 40 units of 3-bedroom, with 3 college students and 3 cars and a drift boat and all that kind of stuff. So while I think they're having don't want to see their neighborhood change, I am confident that this project, because it's in line with the growth policy and with the housing policy, and we have received significant support for it, I'm confident that we'll be able to move it through to completion if it's selected for funding.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you, Eric, for seeking that clarification. Would you like to speak, Councillor?
Gwen Jones, Missoula City Council. I just want to add to that, I cannot speak to the land use rezoning, of course, because that's currently in front of our council. But that this is a common scenario that we see with rezones that come through Missoula. A lot of discussion, and there's a lot of change happening in Missoula these days, which causes a lot of stress, and I think most communities in Montana are experiencing that. So I think it's all per the normal, but what I can speak to also additionally is I've been on council this is my 4th year on council, and as I had gone through and explained with our growth policy and our housing policy and the values that our council has in place, we have not voted down a rezone in the last 4 years that I've been on council. Everyone that's come through has gotten a thumbs up. Just want to let you know that.
Thank you. Further comments from members of the public on any of the projects that are before us?
This is Mary Millen on the phone.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry I wasn't able to talk sooner, but I want to testify for the Nicole Court project in Stevensville. My name is Mary Millen. I am an independent living specialist at Summit Independent Living. We advocate for people with disabilities. And I'm also active with the local Affordable Housing Coalition. And what we've discovered through our research is that even people with really good jobs can't find housing in the Bitterroot Valley. And when you run into problems with people with disabilities who, for some reason, have lost their housing, replacing that is almost impossible. One woman we worked with was intellectually challenged. She lived with her parents outside of town, and they passed away. And her older sister moved in with her and was depriving her of food and turned the heat down when she left for work in the morning and didn't turn it back up till she got home. Anyway, she had to be removed from the home and ended up in a nursing home for almost a year and a half before we could find another place for her. And this was at a cost of $5,000 or $6,000 a month to the taxpayers. She was on Medicaid. This could have been prevented by more affordable housing. Also, more recently, a woman who used an electric wheelchair was living with a friend who had a totally accessible house, and they were very happy together. The roommate passed away. The family sold the house, and the woman needed an accessible apartment. And it took her 6 months before she found someplace that she could live. The project that is happening in Stevensville will not solve the problem, but will certainly make it better. We need more affordable housing, and we also need housing that people with disabilities can live in. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Are there any further comments from members of the public on any of these projects? Before we go to executive action, are there any questions or comments from members of the board? Okay, we're going to do...
Chairman, this is Johnny. Are we taking a break before we go into executive action or?
After.
After, okay.
I have one thing I wanted to bring to your attention.
Yes.
You have several demographic type stuff in your packet, and Sheila requested the, I can't remember what it's called anyway, it's by county, the percentage of tax credit projects and tax credit homes and per thousand, and that is after the pie charts. So it gives you information for each county.
Thank you, Mary. In executive action, we will go to each board member, and each board member will recite what their 5 priority projects are and provide a statement of why you have selected those projects. And I've already alerted Amber that we are starting with her.
All right, so I just want to state that I think this maybe is the hardest round I've ever done. This is really difficult to pick 5 out of 7 because they are obviously all worthy. So I'm just going to start at the top and go with Stevensville, Nicole Court. I think I've supported this project almost every time it's come around, which is 5 times. And I feel that it's been a long time since Stevensville's had an award, and it's perhaps time. And I think the tenacity that they've shown bringing the project back time and time again should be awarded. And so I pick Nicole Court. For much the same reason, Homestead Lodge in Absaroka. Especially in these small towns, a fear of, in this case, units going offline. I think that's a big impact on the smaller communities. So I think it's time that we provide the funding for the rehab that's needed in Absaroka. Bozeman Timber Ridge. I like the idea, of course, of the 9-4 project, but also too, the number of communities that could be impacted by this particular project. Missoula Skyview. I think the need is great in Missoula, and that's been well demonstrated here today by the testimony that we've received. Also the population that they're serving. And then Dillon Pioneer Meadows. I think a lack of projects in Beaverhead County since I can't remember exactly the year that last project, but I think they said about 15 years. So again, a community that I think needs an award to serve the population, the families in Dillon that need this affordable housing. So those would be my 5, but I would like to say there is a 6 and a 7 because, again, this was very difficult this time.
Thank you. Jeanette?
Amber's right. This is probably, these are always tough. And this one, everybody is worthy. Everybody, for gosh sakes, we all know around the entire state of Montana, picking and choosing is tough because there are no losers in this room at all. Everybody is worthy. So I'm going to go ahead but I will give my numbers, and I'll begin. I support the Stevensville project. I live in the Bitterroot, just to say that clearly. I know the need. I know the amount of work that this group has done. I know how they have shifted it from a project that wasn't quite as good, we thought, from our point of view to where it is now. I know about the domestic issue down there, so it is my number one project as I begin. I'm following Absaroka is next. Again, it is, it's rehab seniors, 32 units. It's a clear need in a very small community. My third one is the Timber Ridge 409. We're talking about 82 units here. I appreciate the amount of effort and work to make those kinds of things happen. We are affecting 3 communities, which is Bozeman, Hamilton, again, where I live, and Darby, which is south, very needed and necessary. My fourth one is Missoula Skyview. It is a project that I appreciate. Missoula is a community, since I also live close to it, that to hear the opposition is just an everyday occurrence in Missoula. You know, they didn't want Costco to get bigger. I mean, we have a lot of kinds of things that go on. So I take that, and I appreciate the amount of effort to talk to them about seniors and not college students, and I think this is a good project. My last one is Fire Tower here in Helena. Again, this is a really complicated project, and to put all of that together has been worthy of a great deal of effort when you take rehab and you take Section 8 and you take trust fund money, and I appreciate all that kind of effort.
Thank you, Jeanette. Johnny.
I just want to say thank you to everybody that's submitted an application. I know that this has taken a lot of effort, a lot of money, and put a lot of emotion into putting these projects together. To concur with the rest of the board here, this is one of the most difficult parts of this. It is the most difficult part of it, because all of your projects are worthy, just like it's been spoken to. Again, I think we've said this. This is my third time in this process. We don't have enough money, plain and simple. So I apologize to any of you who do not get funded, but that is the bottom line. We need to figure out where to get more money from, through the state, through other entities. We need to figure out how to fund these projects. So for my 5, not in any particular order, what I have done, as you guys can see, we have a plethora of information and data, and we try to plug it in. So I took several categories between geographic distribution, need in the community with percentage of new units that are going to impact that need, awards over the last 10 years for the county, cost of construction, frequency for the city that it was awarded, and then your overall scores for applications. And then I tried to pick a top 5 out of that. So we have Stevensville, Nicole Court, Absaroka Homestead Lodge, Bozeman, Timber Ridge Apartments, Missoula Skyview, and then Dillon Pioneer Meadows.
Thank you, Johnny. Eric?
Thank you, Pat. I just want to echo pretty much what everyone else here is saying. These are really, really hard decisions as you go through all this data that we've looked at. And so, again, the big issue is we need more funds. We need to find a way to get more funds for affordable housing. And so, with that said, here are my 5 projects. The first is Nicole Court in Stevensville. It's rural. It's been here a number of times, and the domestic violence assistance, I think, is a huge attribute for this project. The second is Pioneer Meadows in Dillon. It's rural. Historically, few credits have been allocated there, and there's a tremendous market need, as we heard, for assistance in Dillon. Third is the Fire Towers Apartments in Helena. It's a rehab, and I think it's a very creative rehab, and it's a way to take an existing rehab project and increase the number of low-income housing units and make it 100% for low-income housing units. And there's a tremendous market need in Helena for it. Fourth is Homestead Lodge of Zorkey. It's rural. They've been here a number of times, and it's an acquisition. It's a rehab of existing property. And the last is the Timber Ridge Bozeman. I really like the combination of the 4%, 9%, and the fact that we could add 82 units.
Thank you, Eric. Bob?
Thank you. Well, I want to thank the staff for, again, getting additional information that really helps when these are as competitive. And I noticed all of the applications scored really well. I know how much work went into, and as the other board members, we're reminded really 3 times a year of what the need is for affordable housing. And I was delighted to see Skyview's application and them overcoming, fighting in spite of a lot of pushback. And I was glad to see Timber Ridge getting the support of our congressional reps. I hope you keep your line of communication open with those folks so that they will work for us on the Hill. I mean, we're not getting much help with affordable housing from either party right now. And hopefully, we know in Montana to keep jobs here and keep our economy going, we have to be able to house people. And we're building, communities based on tourism and a lot of exciting things, but we've got to have the employees, and we don't do it, as Sheila always said, affordable housing is where good employees go home, and we need it. So, and again, I think this is my 13th opportunity to make a few people happy and a couple people unhappy. So I echo the other board members that it was no easier this year. So I'm gonna go with Nicole Court too, because while there's a couple of factors that have kept it down, but the size of the properties always hurt it, and their costs are a little higher. But they haven't had an award down there since 1990, and there's no question that the need is significant, and it's kind of a niche. My second choice is Timber Ridge. Third one is Missoula Skyview. And the county with the least number of affordable housing units by population is Beaverhead County, Dillon, so that's my fourth. And, Fire Tower I really struggled with this one, but I like the expansiveness, so I'm going to make it my fifth. So,
thank you, Bob. My first one is Nicole Cart. I like the fact that it's serving a vulnerable population of victims of domestic violence. It's a rural project. There's a great need in the community, and the frequency of awards in that location are very low. So Nicole Court is my first. Secondly is Homestead Lodge. Again, geographic distribution. It's a rural project, and we're rehabbing existing stock. Next is Bozeman Timber Ridge Apartments. I like the use of the 4% in conjunction with the 9% to rehab some projects in rural areas. I think that was very innovative, and so I appreciate that. Next is Skyview. I have to say that that is my old neighborhood. I grew up in that neighborhood. My mother taught at C.S. Porter School across Reserve Street. We used to swim in the Daily Ditch, much to the terror of my parents, and I went to Franklin School for a couple years. Last is Helena Fire Towers. It's a rehab of existing units to preserve those units. In addition, I like the addition of 20 new units from market rate to affordable. So, thank you. At this point, board, we will take a break and come back and consider if we want to proceed with this slate or make any changes. So we'll take a 15-minute break, come back at 5 minutes to 11. Okay, we'll get started again. You're probably all impressed how I orchestrated the fire drill during our break.
Penny, can you put me back up? Thank you, Paula.
All right, thank you. We'll get underway here. Bruce, would you like to fill us in on where we are? Thank you.
Absolutely. So just based on the tally of projects that are priorities for members, Stevensville, Nicole Court, and Bozeman Timber Ridge came in with 6 board members having them as a priority. Absaroka Homestead and Missoula Skyview came in at 5. And then Dillon, Pioneer Meadows, and Helena Fire Tower Apartments came in with 4. So we kind of have 3 groups. Dillon and Helena, of course, are kind of the ones that with the lesser of the total. Based on the recommendation that staff had laid out prior to this process and before the meeting, we would recommend that the board's slate of projects include to fully fund Stevensville, Absaroka, Butte, and Bozeman. And I'm sorry, not Butte. Stevensville, Absaroka, Bozeman, Missoula. We also recommend that you fully fund Helena, as that is a rehab project, and it's really hard to downsize a rehab project if that is the direction. And then to partially fund the Dillon project with the remaining credits that I show above. That amount will increase slightly if we are successful in getting a 2019 National Pool Award. I think last year that was about 100,000 in credit. So from a staff recommendation side, that's the slate that we would recommend and how you make this approval. The final project, if that's the way you decide to go with Dillon will have 30 days to take and go back and kind of run their numbers or look at their project and be able to submit any changes, and then we'll underwrite it. And if it's all meeting standards, we'll just move forward.
Thank you, Bruce. At this time, we'll allow any members, I wanted to say, if we're gonna have an opportunity for public comment once we have a motion on the floor, so if you feel that you would like to make some comments, again, you will not have another opportunity. At this point, are there any board members that wanted to change their priorities? There's any discussion or comments on the board regarding the 6 projects that are on our slate of projects?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I can't see the numbers. What is the reduction in the credits for Dillon if we accept the staff recommendation? What did they apply for and what would they receive?
So Eric, I'll have you look at my screen since you can't see up there. I think Eric's just can't see sideways. So the reduction in credit would be $547,720. So by the time we get, national credits in, it's going to be something more like $450,000.
Thank you.
Pat?
Yes, Amber.
For clarification too, if Missoula does not, for some reason, receive a zone change that they need for Skyview, then do we defer the credits to Dillon?
Amber, all projects that aren't zoned correctly at this point are contingent on meeting those requirements, and if those credits come back, we would then, yes, apply them to Dillon first, and then they would be available for other projects, I guess, until next year.
Okay, members of the board, do we want to have a motion to approve the slate as recommended by staff?
Move approval.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
And just for clarification, we're going to use the recommended motions that Greg provided us, so we kind of get all the verbiage correct. We'll use those motions, with the slate that I just went over, and we'll add that verbiage in. Greg, do you have anything to add to that?
So I think on the proposed motion document in proposed motion 1, that would be the form of this motion. All of the projects except for the Dillon project would be to award credits in the amount originally requested. And I think then for the Timber Ridge project, since it's the combined 9%, 4%, we would use that option B, which makes it contingent on also completing the associated 4% application submitted.
Okay, is that acceptable? Johnny, you made the motion. Is that acceptable?
I made the motion. Eric, that's acceptable.
Okay, and who seconded it?
I did.
All right, thank you.
Jeanette accepted it, or seconded it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. Now is an opportunity to allow for any amendments to that motion. It will provide an opportunity for the public at this point to comment on the motion. Tyson.
So we want to clarify, this motion would be just to fund the 5 fully funded projects, and then we'll need a second motion to fund Dillon at the reduced size. Correct, Greg?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, Eric and Jeanette, that meet with your approval?
That's acceptable.
Okay, Tyson, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Tyson O'Connell with Wish Camper Development. I strongly support this motion, and we can't resize Fire Tower for the reasons that Bruce recommended earlier. We have $1.2 million in additional housing trust funds in this project, so we really strongly support this motion.
Thank you. Any further public comment on the first motion that's on the floor? Any comments? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Michael O'Neill, Helena Housing Authority. I just want to speak in support of the motion on the floor, particularly as it relates to the fire tower project. Having that many project-based units available in our community, I'm very aware from my perch at the Helena Housing Authority what a vital role project-based units make. In our current market right now, a lot of people with vouchers are having difficulty placing them because of the tight rental market. Having project-based, like the Serendipities, now to be called Fire Tower, is so critical to meeting the needs in our community, and that those affordable units will be expanded under this. It's such an important thing that gets funded. I'd hate to see it not be funded. So thank you for your support.
Thank you, Michael. Further comments? Or any board comments or questions regarding the motion? Hearing none, we are voting on the motion to approve the 5 projects, excluding Pioneer Meadows at this point in time. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now I understand we need a motion on relative to Pioneer Meadows.
So moved.
Second.
The
Okay.
exact wordage that Greg represents.
Yeah, Greg, would you tell us what the wording of the motion is?
Yeah, this proposed motion number 2 would approve the award to the Dillon project in the reduced amount of the remaining available credits. I don't know what that exact amount, it was up on the board a moment ago. And that project would then have a period of 30 days to resubmit its application, resized to that lower amount of credits. And then staff will underwrite and evaluate that application, and if they determine that it's financially feasible and viable as resized, staff would then be authorized to enter into a reservation agreement. So that award would move forward at that point.
And that would take into account the national pool credits if we got them, Greg, just to make sure. We need to add.
We probably should add that proviso. I don't think that's specifically in the wording.
So we will do that.
Okay.
So
that the resizing amount would be increased to include any national pool credits. Is that correct?
And any increase for 2020 credits.
That's a good comment. I hadn't thought about that.
My words exactly.
Thank you. Then, and who seconded that motion?
Johnny.
Johnny, that's acceptable to you? All right. Thank you. Is there any public comment regarding the second motion? Is there board discussion or questions regarding motion number 2? Bob?
Just a comment. You know, Silver Bowl County, that is a wonderful elderly project. And based on some of the statistics, they're due also. So I would recommend we see that project next year.
I agree. As I told Jim Morton, as Mitch McConnell said, he did persist. So sometimes, as we see, projects have to come back quite often in order to get approval. So all those, if there's no further comments or discussion, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. We are now to program update.
You had an update included in your packet, so I won't belabor that. I'll just let you
My
take
packet is in Green Valley,
Oh,
Arizona.
that's right. Yeah. Well, you can look at it when you get there, which will be the next day or two. Yeah.
Thank you. Operations program update.
Cheryl Cohen, Operations Manager. I'll be quick because I know everyone's eager to kind of move on with their day. So our next scheduled board meeting is Tuesday, April 7th in Butte. We don't have any board meetings scheduled between now and April. Prior to that, on April 6th, we'll also have a board training in Butte. I'd like to thank Pat, Jeanette, and Sheila for attending the NCSHA annual conference in Boston. We really appreciated having you there. And if any board members are interested in attending next year, I think the locale is going to be New Orleans, in case that's a draw for you. We have the NCSHA Legislative Conference in Washington, D.C. in March. Please let us know if you're interested in attending. For the staffing update, Stephanie Kreider started as Housing Choice Voucher Manager on September 30th. Sandra Sison started as Part-Time Records Retention Specialist, a position we share with the Community Development Division, on October 7th. Todd Foster, who's here in the back of the room, can you wave, Todd? Started with our admin team on the 15th. And an update from when this went to print, we did make an offer for our open accountant position. Hannah Rotter, who's currently in our homeownership team, accepted that position and will be starting shortly. And finally, not noted in the update packet, but June Pack, who is currently with our multifamily team, with Mary Bear's team, accepted a position with the Section 8 program, so she'll also be transitioning. As you may know, we were working over the last 3 months on a website redesign. I really want to thank the Commerce Communications team for all their support with that project, as well as the entire website redesign team and the program managers. They did a tremendous job reviewing all their content, keeping us on deadline, and having that happen within a 3-month period, so that was fantastic. Just for perspective, we started off with around 400 pages several years ago, was pared down to 250, and now we have 60 pages. So much more streamlined, and we're really excited about it. As part of that, the new website also includes our new mission statement, which is listed on the agenda. Montana Housing works with community partners across the state, and together we ensure Montana families have access to safe and affordable homes. So thank you to the board for your work with that. Procurement, we're working through a few miscellaneous amendments, and some of these that are listed here have actually closed since this went to print, and a couple others are out for final DocuSign execution. We're tweaking a bit our timeline for an RFI for our quality control services until we update our internal quality control plan. Bits and pieces have already been updated, but having that kind of completely done will really help us inform the scope of work for that RFI. We did meet with several vendors in Denver and did some demos when we were in Boston, so that was actually also quite informative. Finally, for our seller servicer approval work plan, our team updated our work plan in early October, and we identified work plan tasks to prioritize through the end of the year. Those are listed in the packet. And finally, we met with Freddie Mac and NCSHA during Boston, and they're going to be on site here in Helena with us on November 6th for some training on their various technology tools. And they're still in the process of reviewing our application, but they don't have any questions or comments thus far, and we should be hearing back on that application review by the end of this month or early next month. And that's what I have for operations. Are there any questions?
Bob, 2 quick things. How was your family vacation in central Montana?
Thanks for asking, Bob. It was fabulous. I think the board members know, when we had our last meeting in Lewistown in September, my family rented an Airbnb in North Winnett and stayed there for a couple of days, and it was fabulous. We got to watch antelope and deer and all sorts of birds, and my daughter had a great time running around in the fields with the grasshoppers. Thanks, Bob.
And the second question I wanted to ask, when we were having our single family discussion in loan processing management, is I'm assuming we have a model to test. I mean, right now we have pretty favorable unemployment numbers, we have pretty favorable interest rates, and yet our numbers track with the national below a little bit. Do we have a model that shows us where like to test or to risk manage abrupt changes in unemployment or interest rates?
I don't think we've done any modeling specific around unemployment. I think we take into consideration the ever-going fluctuations in interest rate. We're looking at our next bond issue right now and trying to be conservative in how we go about our pricing to kind of make sure that we make decisions that can withstand those changes in the market.
No, I'm comfortable with that. My concern was specific to our portfolio that's growing, and we're adding lenders, as we do and grow, which is all a wonderful thing. I just want to make sure we're thinking about that additional risk and how we stay ahead of it. Maybe Bruce has got us something for that. I don't know.
I think Cheryl had a good answer. that's something I think we should think about, as part of our strategic planning that came up. And so we'll put our heads together and think about how we might be able to do that.
And I think we have opportunities with our financial advisors, CSG advisors, to help us look at our portfolio. We know kind of how we were impacted with the market in 2008. We can look at our breakdown of our portfolio now and see if we can run some scenarios. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Cheryl. Any other comments or questions for Cheryl? Thank you. Bruce, Executive Director.
Mine's really short, just FYI. We don't have a scheduled board meeting until April, but I would imagine we'll end up having some webinars and conference calls in between, so keep an eye out for that. I also like to take this time to thank staff for all of the immense work they do, Mary and Kelly and their staff. At this meeting, especially, they have really kind of moved mountains and done a wonderful job, but not just them. Vicki, Ginger, Mary Palkovich, Leslie Torgerson. I have just an absolute stellar staff, and I couldn't ask for anything better. So that's it. Thank you.
I certainly second that. Is there anything else that members of the board would like to bring before us? Not, Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn. Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion. Meeting is adjourned.